This analysis is brought to you by chessvideos.tv, formerly chessvideos.com. And this is an 1894 Endgame study by Williams, and I found the position in the excellent book Practical Chess Endings by Irving Chernev. If you have the opportunity to check out this book, it's got a huge number of wonderful endgame studies, and what I really like about them is that they look like game positions or illustrate ideas that can be used in practical chess, as he mentions. So we've got a position where black is one square away from queening by playing a1, and it's sort of difficult because white's rook is very poorly placed. So we're going to find a way for white to move and win. Now first I want to show that just taking the rook right away doesn't lead to anything for white. So rook takes pawn is nothing more than a draw after king takes, and the problem is that king c4, the black king is just going to go for this pawn, and as you'll see, white can't attack the black pawn without allowing king takes pawn. So this will just peter out into a draw. So rook takes pawn merely draws, and the only other alternative, which is pretty attractive at first and seems very effective, is king c3. This is sort of a tricky way to try for the win. And the point is that after queening, a1 queen, we actually play king b3, and we're threatening rook e1 mate. The only problem is that here black has queen a5 guarding the mate threat, and now black actually wins. So we see that neither of those tries are sufficient for white to win the game. So the only other option is rook e1 check, and that's the first move of the study. So we have king b2, that's forced, and here comes the key move. So if you're watching the video, you might want to pause it so you can try to find it. The winning move is the very surprising and attractive rook a1. The point is that this rook is poisoned. If the king takes the rook with king takes a1, we have king c2, and note the black king is stalemated, so he has to move the pawn. The best move here is a5. He can try a6, but it's going to work out the same as the game, only black's even slower. So a5 is the best try, when b6, a4, b7, a3, and now white can't promote right away because it would be stalemate, but white has the very nice king c3, forcing king b1 when white promotes with check. So now the alternatives are king a1 when queen h8, the very nice move, king b1 forced, and now queen h8 mate, queen h1, excuse me, and after check, if king c4, king c1 rather, queen f4 check is mating, king d1, queen f1 mate. That's another nice mate. This position leads to all sorts of really attractive checkmates. So as we can see, king takes a1 and king c2 leads to a loss for black. So in response to rook a1, black is going to have to try something else. And the only alternative really is king b3. The problem though is that the king can't move away from one of these three squares, or else this pawn hangs and white is just clearly won. So after king d2, king b2, trying to keep the king away, and king d1, black doesn't really have a choice. If king b3 here, just king c1, king a3, and king c2 is going to win the pawn, and now white is just completely winning. So after king d1, the only alternative is king a1, king c2, and once again the wonderful idea of the study, after a5, we have this mate after b6, a4. This should look very familiar. King c3, king b1, b8, queen. And now if king a1, we have queen d6 and queen d1 mate, and if king c1, we have queen f4, king d1, queen f1 mate. So a very nice study in which white plays the surprising rook a1, sacrificing a rook to get the win in an otherwise drawn position. This is Williams, 1894, from Irving Chernev's Practical Chess Endings, and this analysis is brought to you by chessvideos.tv.